During the first New Year's after marrying my husband James, I realized I'd been deceived. While helping with the holiday meal in the kitchen, my sister-in-law, Emily, made a snide remark. "Susan, are you bad at cooking? Make the presentation nicer. It's killing my appetite." I'm no culinary genius, and I struggle with presentation, but I was doing my best. Her comment felt unnecessary, especially in front of the other female relatives. I responded, "Oh, I'm sorry. I usually don't pay much attention to that. I would appreciate some guidance." Just as I sincerely asked for help, my mother-in-law Tiffany interrupted. "Plating food is basic, right? Especially when it's James' favorite dish. You've never cooked it at home, so you don't have a sense of how to plate it, do you? Poor James, he married a wife who can't even cook properly. There's a reason you've been divorced before, you know. Did your ex-husband cheat on you because he got tired of your bad cooking and careless personality?" Tiffany and Emily took turns making these remarks before finally walking away, looking annoyed. They complained but never actually helped. Instead, another female relative stepped in to assist me. What surprised me more than their criticism of my cooking was the drastic change in their attitude towards me. 6 months ago, I remarried after divorcing my cheating ex-husband 2 years prior. When I met James, who was younger than me, we quickly hit it off and began talking about marriage. We both love spending time outdoors, so we went fishing and camping together. We decided to get married. James is active but kind, and I felt comfortable around him. I was initially worried whether his family would accept me as a divorcee, but when I visited his family home, they welcomed me warmly, and my worries vanished. "It's nice to meet you, Susan. If you're okay with our son, please marry him. Good for you, James, you found a kind wife." Their warmth put me at ease. I had some interactions with my previous husband's family, but we never grew close. They were wealthy and formal, and I, being an ordinary person, couldn't fully understand their values, so I was honestly concerned about getting along with this new family. But I thought everything would be fine since they welcomed me so warmly. That sense of security, however, must have been fake. Throughout my stay, Tiffany and Emily kept badmouthing me. I was shocked by their change in attitude, especially on the night of January 3rd. When I finally returned home, I felt such a wave of relief that I nearly cried. By August, during summer vacation, my husband suggested we visit his family again. My anger and sadness have faded, and I convinced myself that maybe they were just stressed out during the New Year's incident. It wasn't worth dwelling on the past. Although I was still a bit scared of Tiffany and Emily, I thought I could manage a few days with them. So I agreed to accompany my husband back to his family home. Determined to make things better, I decided we should buy lots of gifts to bring with us, hoping it would lead to pleasant conversations and a fresh start. I tried to convince myself that the New Year's incident was just a bad dream. That positive thinking carried me through the drive to my in-laws' home, which is in a coastal town in a neighboring state. We drove for half the day and due to traffic, arrived in the evening. When we got there, Tiffany greeted us warmly. "Welcome home, James," Susan, she said, smiling happily to see her son after a long time. She even gave me a kind smile, and Emily, standing next to her, accepted the gifts with a polite thank you. I felt relieved. I had been right. They must have just been in a bad mood that day. "James, your dad and the uncles are at their usual bar. Why don't you join them? They've all been looking forward to seeing you," Tiffany suggested. "Really? Hey, Susan, do you want to come along?" James asked gently. I was planning to go, but Tiffany interjected. "Oh, we were thinking of having a girls-only time." I thought Susan might enjoy that more. "If that's the case, go ahead, James. Have fun," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. James hesitated, looking like he wanted to say something, but eventually left alone, saying if Susan is okay with it. After seeing him off, I tidied up a bit and then headed to the living room for the girls-only time that Tiffany mentioned. Tiffany, since it's girls only, is there something I should do?" I asked, trying to be helpful. She smiled and said, "I was thinking of making some tea. Could you pick some herbs from the garden? The ones with white flowers. Oh, and Susan, while you're at it, could you feed the dog?" They had a large dog at their home, and it had taken a liking to me, which I found adorable. Growing up, I always wanted a dog but could never afford one, so I was genuinely happy to take care of him. "Sure, I'll head to the garden," I replied. I grabbed a bowl for the herbs and a plate for the dog food, put on my sandals, and stepped outside into the garden. As I busied myself with the tasks, I suddenly heard the sound of a lock clicking behind me. I turned around in a panic and saw Tiffany and Emily watching me through the window smirking. That's when I realized I had been tricked again. They had intentionally sent me outside, even sending James away, under the guise of a girls' only time, all just to lock me out. Tiffany and Emily were terrible people who took pleasure in such childish malice. The ridicule during New Year's, mocking me for being divorced and bad at cooking, had been mere words. But this time they had taken it further by physically locking me out. Come on, this is a joke, right? Let me in. I knocked on the window, but they didn't budge. A woman like you, raised by a single parent and bad at housework, doesn't belong in our home. We don't need to feed you or give you a place to sleep. If you still want to stay, why not sleep in the doghouse? It's large enough for someone as petite as you, Tiffany taunted. Emily clapped her hands and laughed. Susan, you've become a dog. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was cruel, beyond cruel. Stop it, please. I begged, but they only laughed harder. But they just laughed and then unlocked the door. I stood there, wondering whether I should go back inside. But I realized that even if I did, they would probably continue to mistreat me. Then it hit me. I still had my car keys in my pocket. If I couldn't go inside the house or join my husband, I could just stay outside instead. I walked over to the car and retrieved something, quickly setting it up. The noise I was making caught Tiffany and Emily's attention, and they opened the curtains to see what was going on. What on earth is she doing? Tiffany exclaimed, covering her mouth in astonishment. She had good reason to be surprised. What I had taken out of the car was the tent we had used on our recent camping trip. They probably never expected me to opt for outdoor comfort. Stop it. You're ruining the lawn. You're so rude. You're never setting foot in this house again, Tiffany yelled. Ignoring their protests, I decided to make myself some hot coffee using the small camping stove I had left in the car. Despite it being summer, the cloudy day had turned into a chilly evening, making the hot coffee especially satisfying. Before I knew it, the family dog, who had come out of the doghouse, wandered over to warm up by the fire. Sorry for the noise. Oh right, I was supposed to feed you, wasn't I? Here you go, I said, putting the plate of dog food in front of him. As the dog started eating, I petted him, and he let out a happy little bark. I had thought I had no allies in this house, but with this big, gentle dog by my side, I felt comforted. However, I realized that my husband had left in the evening, and if he was drinking, he wouldn't be back for a while. Let's go into the tent. You can come too, I said to the dog. We both lay down in the tent, and as I petted him, I noticed that despite his fluffy fur, he was quite thin. It must have been a long time since he had received any affection, and he seemed so happy to be petted. I started worrying more about this dog than about myself. Shall we go find them? No point staying here, I said. The dog probably didn't understand my words, but he barked and nudged me forward as if encouraging me. I folded up the tent, got in the car with the dog, and drove into town. I parked in a random lot and began walking around with the dog, trying to find the bar where my husband and his relatives were. There are so many bars, it's hard to tell, I said to the dog as we walked. But he seemed to recognize something, either their scent or their voices, because he led the way. Sure enough, as we approached one bar, I heard familiar voices, my father-in-law, Thomas, and my husband James. When I entered the bar, my husband looked surprised. Susan, what are you doing here? And he brought the dog. I felt a wave of relief at finally seeing someone I could trust. But there was something else on my mind. Is this place pet-friendly? Can the dog and I come in? The bar's policy was against it, but since Thomas and his relatives were regulars, they made an exception. Susan, it must have been cold outside. Here, have a drink, someone said, handing me a glass. I took a sip, and the drink was delicious, not just because of the taste, but because of the kindness I felt from my husband's relatives, who were meeting me for the first time. They encouraged me to have another glass, and then another, until I felt the alcohol starting to take effect. As I got tipsy, I began to let down my guard and spoke up about what had been bothering me. Tiffany and Emily locked us out, so we had no choice but to come here. I said, my words spilling out uncontrollably. I couldn't stop talking about everything that had happened, from today to the awful experience on New Year's. Normally, I might have worried about being judged for airing these grievances, but in that moment, I didn't care. My husband, Thomas, and the others listened intently as I spoke. When I finished, one of the relatives sighed and said, "Those two are at it again." That comment seemed to open the floodgates, and they started sharing stories about Tiffany and Emily's past behavior. They even recalled how the two had acted similarly when they were supposed to be taking care of James's grandmother. Eventually, James's grandmother moved into a nursing home because she couldn't handle Tiffany and Emily's behavior any longer. It wasn't just her. Someone mentioned that they didn't even take care of the dog. They left it all to their husbands. Hearing this, Thomas, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "I thought about divorcing them when they mistreated my mother, but what they did to you, my son's wife, is unforgivable. I can't take it anymore." Thomas stood up, resolute. When we returned home, he finally confronted Tiffany and Emily. "Let's get a divorce. Leave now." Tiffany and Emily fought back. "Susan is also to blame. She set up a tent and even took the dog into town. That's so unreasonable." But Thomas didn't waver. "I don't see it that way. Kicking someone out into the cold is what's unreasonable. What do you think family is? I wanted to get along with you, but I've reached my limit. I don't want to consider people like you as family." Tiffany and Emily glared at me, but then they screamed. The dog had growled at them. Thomas looked at them with disdain. "You never took care of that dog. You didn't feed him or walk him. You're not even worthy of being his owner. It serves you right to be growled at. You're not part of this family. Leave now." With that, Thomas made them pack their bags and kick them out, regardless of the late hour. Tiffany and Emily didn't argue. Thomas was too intimidating. They didn't have much in the way of assets, so they ended up living in a small apartment to save money. But being spendthrifts, they soon ran into financial difficulties. Now, Tiffany not only has to worry about everyday expenses, but she also has to pay alimony. She's probably struggling, and both she and Emily are working hard at jobs they aren't used to. As for me, with Tiffany and Emily gone, my husband and I decided to move in with Thomas so he wouldn't be lonely. Changing jobs was a concern, but I found a new one sooner than expected, which was a relief. Since moving, life has been joyful every day, surrounded by kind-hearted Thomas, my loving husband, and our pet dog, who has become like a dear friend to me. Relatives also started visiting more often, and I've come to enjoy learning about various delicious drinks and having lively conversations over them. It has become one of my favorite hobbies.